Hey guys, welcome back for episode 2 of Functional Fitness Weekly. I'm your co-host, Coach Kirk, and then obviously we have Coach Mario situated in the middle of the screen. Mario, how's your week? What's new? What's good? You went to Miami this weekend.
Yeah, man, I was there for a CrossFit certification, the level 3 certification. There's 4 certifications, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And someone told me the other day there's like only 5% of all CrossFit trainers are level 3 certified, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I can't really talk much about the test because there's a non-disclosure you have to sign, but it is hard, bro. It has no comparison to the level 1.
Right.
And you can only do well by experience. I mean, that's all I can really say. Like, it's not something that you can really memorize. So, yeah, I have no idea. We'll find out soon for sure.
Cool, man. What's the level 4 about? Do you know?
Yeah, level 4 is practicum. So you have to. I'm not sure if they. Maybe it's all the level 4 applicants that are in that apply for that go to a certain location, city, state. And it's all practical. They'll go over the 9 fundamentals. I know that, and they'll test you on the effectiveness of the coach, their ability to teach it, see it, correct it, call out cues, fix it. Yeah, and that's all hands on, and that's all they do for the weekend. So, and I think like only 1% of all CrossFit trainers are level 4. So it's pretty legit, man. That's where I want to be. I want to be a master of CrossFit. That's what I love. That's what I do. But
so would you see the level 1 and the level 2 being one the written test and the level 2 being kind of like the hands-on, and the same for 3 and 4? 4 is kind of the hands-on version of the level 3 test.
Yeah, but the level 4 is pass-fail. Level 2, you pass no matter what. You just got to show up.
Oh, okay. So the stakes are raised the higher you get. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the real deal. I love it. I love how it's internationally certified. I love everything about it. It pushes us to want to be better, because years before they didn't have that. So you got the level 1, you thought you were the man, but there's so much more to it. So
cool, man.
Yeah, dude, what about you? What's new, man?
Nothing too much. We played tennis this morning. That was fun. I've been itching to play some more tennis. Gosh,
dude,
we were awful.
Terrible.
Awful.
Terrible. I thought for a second that I was going to put that live, just us playing tennis, but we were so terrible that I ex-nayed that quick.
It was, yeah. Our members would have serious doubts in our athleticism, if they saw that. So
it just reminded me, bro, just skill sets. Like, you use it or lose it, man.
Yep. You got to practice.
You got to practice.
Yep.
And we say that all the time with these movements, with CrossFit, because we do it all the time. But it's for anything, dude.
Yeah.
Like, there were moments where I try to swing it just right, and you saw it. I barely hit the racket. So, yeah, it's motivating.
I think even more so with sports is you have to practice even more than you do CrossFit to get back into it, because they're so
specialized.
They're so specialized and focused on accuracy and coordination. And CrossFit does hit upon those things. Accuracy, not a whole lot.
But you can cut through some of that sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to shake off the rust, and you can just kind of warm up as much as you need to in CrossFit. Tennis, it's like you can play for hours and just not get any better. It's frustrating. But
I agree 100%, dude.
Anyways, moving on. Let's get on to recapping. Last week we had a bunch of articles. One of them, one of the biggest controversial ones we went over was CrossFit awarding winners with Glocks. So looking back, we were able to uncover that they were not handing them out at the games. They were giving them coupon vouchers to so the athletes can take home with them and then order them either online. I don't know. I don't have the details. I don't even think the details were leaked online. But, yeah, there's no physical handing out of the guns like on the podium or anything ridiculous like that.
Which
the media makes you want to believe like that was going on, is that, they got, holding up handguns on the podium and shooting into the air. But
And that's what I hate about media, man. That's why as soon as I hear a story, I'm trying to validate it through multiple outlets, which is like it was sensational about like guns will kill people. I can't believe you would give them guns, and all you really felt was like they were literally handing over guns. So yeah, I'm glad we cleared that up for sure. And then the other
Yep.
article was the cannabis as performance recovery, and I had stated that I know that at particular situations where through urine testing you could beat the test in 24 hours. That wasn't totally true as well.
Mm-hmm.
Going back into talking to other individuals, the length is different for everyone, and it's based on the use of the marijuana. So the frequency, how often someone smokes marijuana. So infrequent users can last up to 5 days, frequent users up to 15, and chronic users up to 30 days. So the other thing that I tested or learned there through the testing was there's multiple ways to test. Obviously, hair is one,
Mm-hmm.
which is the most long-lasting. You can find out past use up to 90 days. Blood is only 12 to 24, which was surprising, and the most commonly used is urine. So that's what's being tested most of the time. So that range, right,
Mm-hmm.
is between, you're looking at 5 days all the way to 30. And we'll support that comment with some lab tested results as well.
Cool. That's crazy that the hair is the longest lasting. Who knew you could find out drug use from hair? That's just
It's crazy, bro.
mind-blowing.
Crazy, crazy, crazy.
All right, shall we get into our first article?
Let's do it, man. I'm excited. I mean, a lot of this is from this past weekend, watching the games and the excitement that came from all that.
Yeah, and just a reminder, we'll place all the article links down below. The first one coming from barbend.com. Just going over the winners of the games. Catherine's David's daughter repeats. Matt Frazier gets his first bite of first place. And then, big surprise, Rich Froning wins again, but in the teams 2 years in a row.
Monster.
This is just insane.
Insane, bro. I can't say enough good things about him. Yeah, so I think obviously the pinnacle of all this is Matt Frazier, because he's come in second twice, and just the obliteration
Destruction.
between he just destroyed everyone in this competition.
Mm-hmm.
They called this the biggest gap of winning between points between first and second place, and we know how destructive Rich Froning was in his time. It didn't even compare, so it was amazing. I knew something was special when I saw him win that race. If there was anyone that I thought would take top 10 in that 7K downhill crazy run they did back in Aromas, I would not have had him in the top 10. And for him to take first, I knew that if there was going to be if there was going to be a gap, it was going to be endurance. Yep.
Yeah, if he was to stay healthy after the first day, it was over. So, I mean, it was very impressive to watch. I wonder what, and the article coming up next talks about his success, but, it makes me wonder, what was he doing to get that much better? What was he doing?
Well, one of the things that I know is this was the first year he was able to fully commit to CrossFit, because he was in school prior. So even though he was doing CrossFit full time, there were other things that were taking up his time, like going to school, physically having to be there, or the nature of studying and things like that. I think the other thing, he's matured as an athlete. He's wanting it more. And then the coach. I mean, there's no surprise that the coach that led Catherine to another first place finish was also the same coach that led Matt Frazier to a first place finish as well. And that's Ben Bergeron of CompTrain.com. And he's amazing. The stuff he's always put out, is phenomenal. And to me, he's a purist. You see a lot of metcons and triplets, and if you go back to his program, the volume's crazy, and it has to be for those type of athletes. But if you look at those conditioning pieces, they're pure raw CrossFit. If you go back, one of the sites I visit a lot is just his homepage, CrossFit New England, because that he's programming for the general masses, and what you will see there is pure CrossFit. There's nothing fancy about it. It is pure CrossFit. A lot of benchmarking, a lot of benchmarks. It's humbling to see, because I think sometimes you start like, all right, let me go see what these guys are doing, and they're doing all this crazy stuff. It's programming that's going to take 2 to 3 hours to complete, and that does not excite me. I mean, we talk about this all the time. We don't even pretend that we want to be games athletes or that we could ever even be in that position. Anything that's going to take me a longer than an hour to train, I want nothing to do with it, because that's, I've been through those phases and I don't want to be there. So for these guys, I know how much volume they're putting in, and I think the way Ben's doing it is right.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about volume later on with the articles I want to get into. Okay, Katrin, really, really impressive, man. The girls this year was way more fun to watch than the guys because Matt just ran away with it.
Right.
But the girls, just like the guys, most of them are pretty young. I'd say the average girls athlete is maybe 20, 24, 25. I'd have to look that up. But, man, it seems like the older the girls get, like they just fall off. Annie hasn't been the same. Sam Briggs got 4th. But when the year Sam won, she destroyed everyone. So, I mean, these young girls are really impressive. Tia Toomey, I think she'll probably she might win it next year. I think she's just the best raw athlete out there, and she's real new to the sport.
To do all that, and she's also competing in the Olympics for the Australia Olympic weightlifting team. Are you kidding me?
It's insane.
Dude, these athletes are monsters. It's crazy. It's unbelievable what they're doing and their capacities.
Yeah,
it doesn't even compare to 5 years ago.
And I think Toomey was a hurdler at the last Olympics, if I remember right, for Australia. So if you're able to be in the Olympics for 2 different sports,
dude, that's an athlete,
and place top 2 in the CrossFit Games 2 years in a row, she has an argument for the fittest athlete in the world. Even though she hasn't won the CrossFit Games, she's up there. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, she's phenomenal to watch.
And then Sigmund's daughter again takes 3rd.
Third, yeah.
I think I don't know if she'll ever win. I don't think she's as talented as David's daughter or Toomey. I think she just works
she's a workhorse,
really hard.
Yeah, she's a workhorse, and she wins a lot of international competitions. She's a workhorse, bro.
Yeah.
She gets in there and she gets after it. Where you're right. I think that Katrin is more finesse. She's more strategy.
Right.
I agree. But Sarah is still impressive to watch.
And that's why I think the girls are more fun to watch, because they're pretty different from athlete to athlete. And the guys for the most part are the average 5'8", 5'9", 190 to 200 pounds, and they all have about the same skill sets to a degree. Then the guys are pretty fun, but the guys are sometimes the most fun to watch aren't at the top of the pack either. Like Lucas Parker, I always enjoy watching him, but he's never been like top 10. Sam Dancer got in this year, and he deadlifted over 600 pounds on the deadlift.
On that ladder, unbelievable.
So those are the athletes for the guys I think that are a little bit more fun to watch.
Well, I think the guys that just moving heavy weights and heavyweights fast is even more impressive to me. And then the girls, it's just their abilities, doing stuff that you would naturally think girls couldn't do. And when you see them do it at high caliber, it's cool to watch. What's interesting is, Katrin did not secure the win. I mean, dude, they had finished the last event, and they must have had us waiting for like 10 minutes before they were able to account for her. And it was just based on finishes. Katrin had to couldn't finish within a certain distance away from Tia, and that's what happened. Tia didn't finish high enough, or the displacement between Tia's finish and Katrin's wasn't big enough for Tia to win it. But Katrin was in second going into that last event.
Yeah, it's impressive. It was definitely, like I said, a lot more fun to watch than the guys this year.
And then CrossFit Mayhem, right?
Yeah, Mayhem, man. Like, I don't know if anyone will beat them until they like put a super team together of former individual games athletes.
Yep.
Rich is the best individual athlete of all time. He arguably still could be. And then you have Hobart, who's been to the games several times as an individual. Mm-hmm. I always forget the third guy on their team, though. I feel bad.
Yeah, I do
Matt
too.
Hewitt. Matt Hewitt.
He's a great athlete. He's just I'm pretty sure he's a little bit older, but he's a mayhem dude. He's been with Froning since the beginning. Yeah, for sure. But I think their smartest decision from last year, because they didn't really have they had a stronger team this year than they had last year, and it's because they had that one older lady. I forget her name, but they recruited Lindy Barber, and I think that was a phenomenal decision.
Lindy Barber is a great athlete. Former collegiate soccer player, I think. And she's been to the games at least twice on her own. And she's got a great story too, if you're interested in looking her up. But we won't get into that. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait another year to see what happens, but expect if Matt wants to repeat, he will. The girls is a toss-up again. I think Toomey's going to get it next year, though. Man, it's impressive. And then team, no one's going to stop Rich until they to get together a super team. So
sure, yeah, I agree.
All right, moving on. Next article from Men's Health is just talking about Matt Frazier and how the surprising way he won the CrossFit Games. What did you want to touch on here?
Man, you know what I'm going to say. I'm quoting him here. Honestly, I make sure, this is quoted from Matt. Honestly, I make sure I have such a smile on my face. I never train unhappy. Yeah. And, I mean, what's to say about that? He honestly understands that what he's doing is work. Mm-hmm. And then through that process, I think what got him through that grind this last year was just being grateful. I mean, his story is powerful. If you read it there in the article, he was an Olympic weightlifting hopeful that injured his back and had to get surgery, and he stepped away from the sport, and he ends up becoming a games champion. I call it what's crazy is, if you think about this, if he continued on that road, he would be in the Olympics today. If he was on track to be a legitimate Olympian for the 2016 Olympics. Yeah. He ends up winning what I call the Olympics of CrossFit. Like, it doesn't even compare. It's that story is phenomenal. I think that there's struggle, there's fight, there's so much you can learn from his story. Yep.
It's real impressive. But yeah, just when he comes in, he's happy. You went through a period of your life where you wanted to compete, and it just took so much out of you. And you weren't happy, from what I remember, and you've said it yourself. That's just you got to enjoy what you're doing, especially when you're doing it, and when everything you do in your daily life revolves around that. From when you wake up, you're eating, your training, your massage, whatever he's doing. It's almost like a ritual every day to get to that level. It has to be.
It has to be a ritual. I think, these guys are training 3 to 5 hours a day. And, when I was in that place, I was, I had hired out my own coach, and I traveled to Miami, and I do all the training sessions there. And it was more than work, because I wasn't getting paid for it. I was paying people to program for me, and I didn't have that support system. I think he's got a better support system. But there's also a moment where I think that the general mass just needs to come to an understanding that they're never going to make it to the games. And what's happening is that they're getting remote coaching, or they're getting all this stuff done, but they're so unhappy. And when they first started CrossFit, they fell in love with it because of just how awesome the program was, and it literally put a smile on their face.
Yeah.
But over time, you kind of see this descent of happiness because they have this idea that they're going to, make it to the regions or make it to the open.
Mm-hmm.
And for 99% of those people, they'll never make it there. And so they have to go through this painful process. And for me, I can't tell them that because I think they have to go through it for themselves,
Yeah.
Kirk. And the reason I don't tell a lot of people that is because if someone would have told me that, I would have hated them for it, or I would have ignored them anyways because, I had to go through that experience myself. Mm-hmm. And so when I competed for the Open through the regions 2 years ago, my goal was to make it there, and I didn't place. I think I was in the top 300 in the regions, and that was my coming to Jesus moment. That's when I said, there's just no way with all the training that I did that I'm going to be able to make it to regions, the top 100 athletes. It's just not going to, or top 50 athletes, right? So yep. I knew it, and I came to that. I found peace with that. It wasn't overnight. It happened after many months. And then I had to deal with the ramifications of that. I had to get my weight back right because I stopped training. I got depressed there for a while. And I really had to step back and realize what was important to me. And that's where I think Matt's in a really good place because not only is he a high-level athlete, he understands that at this core, this thing makes him happy, and he comes to content with that. Mm-hmm. And I just think more athletes need to come into the gym, and they need to smile more, and they need to be grateful that they can move and do the amazing things that they're doing and not get so caught up in numbers or what's your deadlift number or what new program are you going to follow. I think they're doing it backwards.
Yep. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. Moving on, we are going to touch on the payouts of the winners and all the athletes who, in the past, I'm not quite sure if they gave out money for top 3 finishes in a single event, but for sure they did this year, which is pretty cool. So we're just looking at the guys right now. Of course, Matt Frazier took home 275 G's for just the overall first place finish. And then it obviously breaks it down below that for all of the other events he placed in top 3, which he won the first event and then he got 7 second place finishes, which is just silly.
Just crazy, yeah.
This Vellner guy in third, he got 4th overall, but he was like a home run hitter type of guy. He's a different athlete compared to most CrossFitters. Yeah. He's kind of long and skinny, which he shouldn't. That's for your standard CrossFit Games male athlete. They're typically short and stocky. Where he's he's probably about 6 foot. I'm not quite sure. He looks
he's taller
like it
for sure. Yeah.
And he's just long limbs, real slender. But he got 4th. And what was heartbreaking for me is his country mate, if we go back to the first article here, his country mate got 3rd. And no one on the games coverage ever talked about him or mentioned him or gave him any credit. No video time. Where's his name? Let's see here. Fikowski. Fikowski's sorry. I don't know if I misspoke. Fikowski's the guy everyone was talking about, and he was getting tons of coverage. Right. Vellner was the dark horse who got no coverage and ended up getting 3rd overall. And I just felt bad for the Vellner guy because he was working his butt off, and so was Fikowski. But Vellner beat Fikowski, and he didn't get any of the
right. The acclaim
on TV.
Yeah.
No one was covering him. I just felt bad for the guy. But looking at he did make a lot of money. But yeah, there's that Brent Fikowski right below him. He made 55 G's, but he got third, a win. He got 3 wins and four wins and 3/3. So he's kind of like the home run hitter type of athlete, where Vellner's more like the Rich Froning of the Canadians, just steady on everything.
Everything, yeah.
But, I just felt bad for Vellner the whole weekend.
Well, when we go last week and we talked about how important it is to incentivize events, because if you're only getting, the first 3 top 3 finishers are getting payouts, then you're not going to get that excitement or those extra pushes for those guys on the bottom third. And this is a quantitative measure of what that incentive is, which is pretty cool, because you'll see why some of these guys out in the bottom third were really pushing for really strong finishes, is that there was a financial incentive as well. And I think it's a great idea. And that's part of the contract when we go into that next article about how much money Reebok is going to constantly keep putting in. These first and third finishes the payouts are going to be bigger and bigger. Even the first place finish payout is $25,000 bigger than it was 2 years ago. It used to be $250,000.
It's just going to keep going up.
And it needs to. Listen, man, these guys are putting in a
Absolutely.
lot of work. This is chump change. Even $300,000 is chump change
for
the
how much
amount
money
of work that they're putting in. I mean, these guys are professionals, and they're world class.
And I wanted to talk about that. We were talking about earlier about how much volume and time these guys spend. I mean, it's all these guys' full-time job. They just didn't, start working out 3 months ago and made to the CrossFit Games. So many of these guys, if I start looking from 40th till about 21st, those guys are not guaranteed money, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
I don't understand how these guys, I don't
know. Yeah, if they're doing this full time and they don't have any other jobs, like 17.
That's be so disheartening. Like, I made it to the games, but I'm working 60 hours a week to get in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
For no money, for none. So they have to get their money through endorsements, and possibly smaller competitions.
Sure. Yeah.
But even
those lifespans are still really small. I mean, these guys, these endorsements can get really picky. If they're not seeing results, they're going to let you go, and they're going to pick up the hottest new athlete, because that's how they work. They have an incentive as well to allow them to brand their product with those individuals. So and I think athletes know that, and they have that pressure as well. You can't just sit here and say, hey, I'll hope to take top 5 in the next 5 years. It doesn't work like that. They know that they're pushing hard every single year to get there. What I was surprised about, the females made good money. I think the gender equality is there, which is cool. I mean, people talk about that all the times with they don't feel like females get enough payouts than males. I think CrossFit has done a really good job with making that distinctly equal. But the team competition, they didn't get crap, bro. I mean, $70K for first place finish with 6 athletes. So they're getting like 11 grand, 12, a little over 11. Yeah, to compete. So I think that number is off, and I think it's because it's still new, and probably when they set these contracts up. I mean, the team division was a joke the first couple of years, and I think now that it's starting to get legitimate and for real. I mean, they're creating special equipment just for team competitions. I mean, that should say enough there about the demand and the quality of those teams.
Absolutely. The teams are a lot of fun to watch just because of the variance in athletes. I mean, in the individual competition, like I mentioned earlier, the guys are like typically this cookie cutter build. They're all about the same height. They're all about the same strength. And the individual competition, I mean, they're all over the place. And I think, unfortunately, it seemed this year they try to go away from the specialization in the teams, because on a lot of the events, everyone had to do the same thing. Well, and that makes sense, so you don't have any especially weak links on your team and a certain movement. But, man, it just felt like there weren't enough events for those specialized athletes, either your super endurance athletes or your gymnastic athletes or your super strength weightlifters,
Yeah, I agree. I think the teams should be left to their own their own strategies and being able to recruit their athletes to be specialists so that they can use them when called upon. I mean, all sports do that. You know what I mean? They pick certain running backs for certain teams versus others. Right. I love that idea because they have to use the creative mind. It's not all like this, this guy is, he's just a monster, but he doesn't really think well on his feet. Right. And I'm not talking about subbing. I don't like that fitness grid league. I don't like the subbing. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't either.
They don't do enough work for me. It's like do your 10 reps.
It's just a sprint. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I think here, I'm saying once your 6 are put together, I think there should be a little bit more change up, but that's a whole different combo.
Yeah.
But those teams are not getting paid enough. I think
Yeah, it's a shame,
obviously
man.
those numbers keep going up, but it needs to. It needs
Yeah.
to. And that might be the reason, Kirk. I think, I think that CrossFit should put up some of these purses or say, hey, listen, there's the team division is going to get paid out $250K next year. You know what that would do? That would draw these teams to really think about combining some of their stronger athletes versus spreading them out because, hey, we want more teams to show up to the games versus, hey, I want one team to win the games.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference, and the prize purse would definitely make that difference.
Yeah.
But I don't really see it jumping up, a third or 3 times that next year. That's not going to happen, but I think it definitely needs to get higher.
Yeah, I think CrossFit really needs to push teams harder. I think there's more potential there for like TV and just widespread. What's the word I'm looking for? Mind share. People, the individuals are okay. They're fun, but we know team sports are typically more fun to watch just because there's just more things that can happen. So I think they would do better if they were pushing teams a lot more, if they could put that out to the mass media in the country, and I think it would pick up more than the individuals would. And it's more fun. Crossfitting by yourself and just for yourself gets old pretty quick.
That's for sure.
Yeah, especially
you're
at that
right.
level. Yeah.
That community, when you draw in community, you don't think individual people, you think people combined together like that. And that's a really good point with the team division. What I was really happy with is a lot of those commercials we'll talk about, we should put that up. Let's put that up next week. Some of the commercials that they played that were really cool to watch, that really just brought down the level of like, hey, can women, I think one of the first questions, can women do CrossFit or something? Or does CrossFit make you bulky? Yeah.
We get that question every week.
Yeah. I love that commercial. It's one of my favorite. And last article, CrossFit is leading a huge revival specifically to the Reebok brand.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've seen this coming. It's been happening for a really, really long time. Ever since, I think, the original Nanos came out. When I first got into CrossFit, so that was 2011 or something. When those came out, they started catching fire. Then the 2.0s came out, and everyone in the CrossFit who CrossFitted seriously, everyone had 2.0s. They made millions upon millions of dollars on those shoes, and then it just kept growing, man. It was like a unstoppable train, because now they have, before you knew it, socks, undershorts, shorts, girls' shorts, booty shorts, sports bras. I can't even imagine how much money they make off sports bras alone.
Or headgears, or just silly stuff.
Oh, it's crazy.
Well, the things that really caught my eye with the article is that the CrossFit community, remember, we're not a franchise, we're an affiliate, but within that broad spectrum of how many companies have come around and that specifically curtail to CrossFit, it is CrossFit is a $4 billion industry. That was really blew my mind. The actual number of this resurgence of CrossFit this last quarter compared to last was a 6% increase from their gross sales, and they have consecutively grown every quarter for the last 12 quarters. So I thought that those were some really amazing numbers for sure. But the other thing that was really interesting in the article, they talk about what they believe is a success of CrossFit. And one of the things that we had experience with, Kirk, was the product testing, because what was happening, there was a lot of companies before Reebok, and I see it more popular now with their competitors like Nike, Under Armour, is that they were taking athletes, and I never heard about it before until they started to use us and some of the high name athletes, is they were using specific athletes to that sport to say, hey, try this stuff on. What do you think? And give us feedback to allow us to adjust product. And they kept doing this left and right, and these versions are adjustments of these. Hey, I think this feels a little tight under the armpit for a CrossFit type athlete, or that shoe doesn't work right because right there on the edge it's ripping off the sole when doing rope climbs. That has started to connect the athletes in those communities to the clothes, because it has a direct translation to the sport. Where, like, before them, I was wearing Lululemon, and one of the things I hated about those shorts is when I would do ab mat sit-ups, that zipper would catch me right in the butt. So they weren't obviously curtailing to our market. They had a different market. But when I started to hear, like, this company, Reebok, was using athletes to, you know, master the clothing line, like, I really dug that concept.
Yeah, it's a great concept, and it only makes sense. If you're making products for a specific type of person, you need to give those items to that person to make your items better.
It makes sense, right? But I'm surprised more gyms don't do it, or companies.
I think they might, but I think Reebok's just really good at it. And, you know, we know most about CrossFit. I mean, they might, you know, Nike might give, you know, spikes to elite level sprinters and ask them to give them feedback. I don't know. But we are for sure that Reebok does a really good job of testing their products in real world situations and making them better.
They do. Now, what's interesting is they have a 10-year partnership. A lot of that is with the clothing line being the main headline for the games athletes. Remember that whole stink about, like, Reebok not allowing any other brand to be displayed during the game, so that was some drama. Or if they did wear it, they would have to tape out the actual brand or something like that. And there was a big stink about that. But there's obviously the commitment. There's a payout commitment, so they have to keep putting in more money to prize purses and stuff like that. But the 10-year partnership started in 2011 and ends in 2021. And what's interesting is that there's other companies that are coming in at stake, i.e. Nike. And what Nike is doing is, they are replicating exactly what Reebok did. They're taking some of the best athletes. Matt Fraser's is an endorsed Nike athlete. You have
Lauren Fisher is for the
Lauren
girls.
Fisher, who's an Olympic weightlifting hopeful, and they're all they're already branded athletes for Nike. So I don't know. I think it better they do. I hate to be biased. I don't wear Nike stuff. I know they do it better. And they have more money to play with, man. I just think, dude, long term, they just have more money. I could see Nike committing to more. I mean, paying out CrossFit game purses much more than Reebok ever could. And I think in 10 years, that's what it's going to come down to. CrossFit is going to be like, listen, how much can you pay out my athletes in the next 10 years? Reebok, what can you pay out? Nike, what can you pay out?
Right.
And they're gonna pick the individual. Listen, if Reebok says I can only pay out $500,000 and Nike says I can play each first place team and each individual $1 million per year, they're gonna pick that every day. So
I don't know if Reebok can afford to lose that. I mean, they wouldn't. Reebok might have been bankrupt or just terminated as a company, because I think they're owned by Adidas, or they at least used to be.
Right. Yeah, they still are. Yeah.
They wouldn't be around anymore if it wasn't for CrossFit. So if they lose that tie to the games, I think that would spell bad news for Reebok. I don't think they would afford to do it.
Yeah, they would have to find a hole in a different sport or something. I know they lost a big contract deal with hockey. It was NHL or NFL, one of them, a couple of years back, and that's why they're pushing CrossFit a little bit more. But yeah, they're just going to have to compete, man, with advertising. They're going to have to compete with quality, and they're going to have to compete with money, man. They're going to have to put in more money for sure.
Yep.
But nonetheless, it's cool to watch because we know competition makes the world go round.
Sure.
And the Reebok, that competition is making the Reebok shoe better. It's making their clothing better. And it's pushing Nike to step it up a notch too. So I love watching it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the quality of all of Reebok stuff has only gotten better since Nike has got into the CrossFit world in terms of merchandise and clothing and stuff. So it's good.
No doubt.
It's only good for the consumer.
No doubt.
All right, man. Any last words for this episode 2?
That's it, man. I mean, keep, we have friends that are submitting comments to us or making suggestions.
Mhm.
We do our research early in the week, and we try to offer some good ideas or some good information. Our end goal is not to know everything. That's impossible, but it's to offer some good suggestions or topics, and then to highlight that where the people that follow us and that love us can do the research for themselves, look at the
Mhm.
articles, and enjoy it the same way we do. So
Absolutely.
we love fitness. I mean, we eat, drink, and this is our lives, and we
Mhm.
just want to spread that love.
Sure. And if you guys ever have questions about any of the topics, or if you had an issue, or maybe we blatantly said something that was wrong, which probably happens from time to time, just put it in the comments. We want to
Yeah.
know so we can address it next week, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. I don't get offended. It's
No.
yeah, that doesn't work like that.
All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Peace. Later, bud.
Later.